This version is a personal account of what I remember happening and some improvised parts, as I was not exactly paying attention at the time to everything that was going on and I was focused on other issues, so some parts I've had to speculate in order to cover as much as possible. So do not take this version as canonized scripture but more of a personal notes to use more as a reference. So let us continue where we left off after the beginning of creation. And after a time God created the earth, and as it cooled and the air became calm and the oceans brought forth the land, the Lord and I went down to the earth, and he said, now we shall begin to create the life upon this world, for the world of man is my greatest endeavor, for they shall one day grow and become great men of wisdom, and from them one day I will come from among them. For their ways and beliefs and wisdom shall shape the very core of the wisdom from which I shall come. That is why they are my most important creation. Now let us take hold upon the earth. And the Lord reached into the soil, and a tree grew from out of it. It shall be done from this tree, the tree of life, for the tree is imbued with my essence and like an anchor from which I shall stand and create the world. And so he did, creating Adam and Eve, the trees and life within the oceans and sky. And then he took a day of rest and departed from the garden, and he took me to the tree of life and told me to guard the tree and make sure that Adam and Eve did not eat of its fruit, for if they did they would die. He then told me, you are the father of sin, so I also appoint you the task of explaining to them how to procreate, but do not touch Eve, for she is Adam's wife. So that there is no room for error, I will turn you into a serpent. I tried to protest, but how will I guard the tree this way and tell them how to ... you know. But it did no good. Once I was changed into the serpent, he picked me up and placed me in the branches. There you go, he exclaimed, and I shall give you the ability to speak so you can explain to them the act of multiplying their seed. Adam and Eve were not too far and listening to the entire conversation, and when God had departed, Adam asked, how are we supposed to grow our own tree? Where are our seeds he was talking about? He said as he tried putting his hand into the ground. Confused, Adam went running in the direction God had went. I was explaining to Eve about Adam's tree branch and what he was supposed to do with it once it grew. Then she asked me how it was supposed to grow, and feeling uncomfortable and not paying attention, I told her to just put it in her mouth and she'll see. I know it sounds vulgar, but it's true. Then I noticed Adam was starting to get beyond my sight. I told Eve to wait there and not to eat of the fruit on the tree as I chased after Adam before he left the safety of the garden. There in the garden it was safe, and the templates of life God had based all of the different life from was there, docile and not dangerous. But beyond the garden's borders the world was turbulent and rapidly growing and changing to the format of God's designing of the ecosystems and other factors that supported each of the plants and animals he was making. I found Adam at the edge of the garden, frustrated he couldn't find where God had gone to. I told him we had to return to the tree where Eve was, because that is where God would come looking for them when he returned. Then it dawned on me. I told Adam we had to hurry back, Eve was in danger. Now Adam was a very naturally masculine man, and especially a quick runner. Soon he was beyond my sight too, and in my serpent form I could not keep up. When I got back to the tree of life, neither Adam or Eve were around. Then God returned. Come Lucifer, let me show you what I've done. He took me to another part of the garden, and there stood a tree similar to the tree of life, but the fruit was red and orange. I call the fruit ambrosia, and it is our tree, the tree of knowledge between good and evil. When the time comes and the fruit is ripened, mankind will be allowed to eat of it, for it shall be my gift to them of free will, the ability to know the difference between right and wrong, and thus be capable of making a choice between the two. This gift shall grow with each of our understanding of virtue, which is my place within the fruit's knowledge, and sin, which is your place within the fruit. Through their consumption they shall share the fundamental understanding that we each shall impart to them. Then he noticed Adam and Eve were not present. Where is Adam and Eve? Before I could say anything, Adam stepped from behind a tree grasping his stomach and fell over. Eve sat there catatonic with a look of shock. God asked her what had happened, and she stammered, the serpent, he told me to eat of the fruit. God glared at me as he rolled Adam over and saw beneath him was the half-eaten apple. I tried to protest, but God was not listening and he was furious. I know now what had happened. I did not understand then as I do now. When Adam and Eve ate of the fruit, it infused them with God's essence. The overwhelming power of God was killing Adam, but worst of all, Adam and Eve's ability of emotion that is unique to man was infused into God's essence as well now. Emotions such as anger and wrath. Instantly they became sick and said it was if they had eaten of the most sour thing ever. He took hold of me as I tried to run from the building fury I saw in his eyes. So you wish to crawl around on your belly like a serpent, then a serpent you shall stay, and cast me to the ground still as the form of the snake. I tried to explain to God that she was lying, and then God took my ability to speak. I tried to grow poisonous fangs so I could get out of the serpent form, and then God stepped on me and I changed into a mountain goat, and then I tried to leap up the cliffside to escape, but I lost my footing and fell, and as I was between forms the Lord said, and I take from you your legs, and you must crawl upon your belly, and you shall not die and deceive any more by taking the shape of another, but instead you shall shed your skin and remain a serpent until I see fit to strike you down, and I shall take from you your fangs, so that you shall not bring harm to another ever again. And I slithered off defeated and angry, and cursed him under my breath with revenge. I think by this point I too started to become affected by Adam and Eve's eating of the fruit. And then he cast Adam and Eve out of the garden and did close it up, and created Michael and placed him at the entrance with a flaming sword to guard against any who would try to enter. If I remember correctly, it seemed as though God had paused there for a moment as if fatigued. Then the Garden of Eden turned to bushes of thorns and thistles, and God cursed man to toil the earth for his food, and woman to bear labor in great pain, and they were to know death, for they had eaten of the fruit. And time passed. Adam and Eve recovered from their illness, and Cain did kill Abel of jealousy for God's favor upon him. But in this God had realized his ability of emotion given to him by Adam and Eve. Over time God showed mercy towards me, for ultimately it was a part of his design that they ate from the fruit, and I was by his side again in time. As time passed and generations begat generations, until the days of Noah's tale came to pass. In this time the Lord had sent Lucifer and his angels to earth to watch over and bring wisdom to mankind. They were not to take part in the splendors of man, only on that which was made by the Lord were they to take part in, and further their understanding of God's relationship with man and understand man's concepts of emotion. Every one of the fallen will tell you that too was a part of their duty here at that time.
For ghastly things learned